Welcome to MT. Hope you enjoy the video.
Don't let other people start depending on you. Choose the standard you want to live by and follow through on. In the ancient world, during the time of the Roman Empire, there was an interesting attitude toward this kind of choice-making. It was a brutal world in those days, to say the least. Anything could happen, from plagues to revolutions, to barbarian invasions. Even for the upper classes, it was a challenge just to survive. Yet certain people attempted to do more. There was a tradition whereby people attempted to create themselves and their characters exactly the way an artist would create a painting or a sculpture. And like a work of art, these people looked upon their lives and their characters as things of beauty that would live on after their deaths, in the memories of their friends and families. People who chose to live their lives this way were not monks or ascetics, or in any way removed from life in the everyday world. They were just very serious about building strong character. In fact, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius was a famous example of this type of person. And his journal is a powerful example of everything that's involved in building character and leadership. Much of it was written in military camps while the emperor was leading the Roman armies against barbarian tribes in what is now Germany. The writings of this ancient emperor and of the other people from the same period reflect a conscious choice to live according to certain standards of responsibility and character. This kind of clear decision about how to build your inner self is something that we rarely see today. Most people want to be good. They want to be ethical and moral and successful in every way. They want to fulfill their potential, but they think it's something that will just happen itself. They don't see that there should be a conscious, ongoing acceptance of responsibility for what you do and who you really are. There's an old saying that goes, "I slept and dreamed that life was beauty. I woke and saw that life was duty." If you want to be really in control of your life, and if you want other people to be able to depend on you and look to you for leadership, you must wake up from the dream that somebody else will handle the pressure, that somebody else will shoot those 2 free throws. I slept and dreamed that life was beauty. I woke and saw that life was duty. It's almost always a good idea to let people know you have a good sense of humor, because in this society, we take humor very seriously. And by the way, you do have a good sense of humor, don't you? I'm confident you'll answer in the affirmative, because virtually everyone is sure they have a good sense of humor, and we'll be talking more about that later. Right now, I just want to emphasize how important humor is as an aspect of strong character. Yet, if you were to ask 100 people to name character's most vital elements, I doubt if more than 5 would refer to humor. In fact, I don't think any would. When he wrote his classic study of American society in the early 18th century, the Frenchman Alexis de Tocqueville predicted that if the United States ever came to be ruled by a dictator, it would be someone with a well-developed sense of humor. If this is true, it's certainly a very different situation than you would find in any other country in the world. Think of the communist and fascist dictators who have played such a major role in 20th century history. They were not exactly a bunch of laugh-a-minute guys. They were good at projecting anger, and they were good at creating fear, but humor, no. Americans, however, respond to very different qualities in their leaders. And though they were obviously not dictators or tyrants, it's true that most of our beloved national leaders have had the ability to make others laugh and to laugh at themselves. Though he was fundamentally a rather melancholy man, Abraham Lincoln was also renowned as a humorist. Every biography of Lincoln refers to his love of funny stories and his willingness to stop and tell a joke, even in the midst of important business. And in more recent times, Presidents Franklin Roosevelt, John Kennedy, and Ronald Reagan were able to smooth out the ups and downs of their political careers with humor, and it was often directed at themselves. People could see that these men were strong enough and confident enough to make jokes at their own expense. And as we'll discuss later, these men were also wise enough to apply humor carefully and at the right times. When we recognize those abilities in a person, we're able to believe they'll also be strong and confident in serious or even dangerous situations. In short, we as Americans see a well-developed sense of humor as an aspect of a strong character and as almost a prerequisite for leadership. But before you go out and buy a joke book as part of your personal self-development program, here's the bad news. To a great extent, you can't learn to be humorous, and that alone makes humor different from every other trait we've discussed in this program. There are many examples of people who learned to overcome fear or even downright cowardice, and who went on to become courageous leaders. There are fools who learned to be wise, and there are liars who turned into honest men and women. There are rigid thinkers who learned flexibility, but I personally have never encountered a humorless person who learned to be humorous. And if there were such a person, I'm sure I would have come across one by now, because I have certainly encountered a great many humorless people. Perhaps one reason we respond so strongly to humor in our leaders is because we associate it with honesty, and I think this association is well-founded. Real humor is honest because real humor can't be faked. You can pretend to be serious, just like you can pretend to be intelligent. You can always fake those qualities, and some people do it all the time, but you can't really pretend to be funny. The real irony, however, is that nobody feels like they have to pretend to fake having a good sense of humor, because everybody thinks that they actually have one. People will admit to almost anything before they confess to being humorless. Have you ever met anyone who said, "You know, I just don't know how to laugh. I just don't like it when things are funny, and I'm just much more comfortable being serious all the time"? I've never met anyone like that, and I am very confident that I never will. In fact, if somebody actually confessed to me that he didn't have any sense of humor, I would think he must be joking. Take, for instance, a fellow named Sam. Sam was about as dour an individual as you would ever want to meet. He was in the meatpacking industry, which isn't an especially amusing occupation to begin with, and in his spare time, he was always trying to discover ways to make a quick $1 million. He had really been influenced by the hula hoop fad that swept the country during the summer of 1958. For some reason, that summer, all the kids in America decided they had to have hula hoops, and the company that manufactured them made a huge amount of money. Sam was captivated by this phenomenon. It really fired his imagination. Although he made very good money with his meatpacking business, he was determined to recreate the hula hoop, and he spent thousands of dollars trying to develop or find new toys. Some of them were very clever, but you had to be careful with them. There was one contraption that involved a block of wood on a string. I'm not sure how it was supposed to work, but if a kid wasn't careful and swung it around a little too fast, anybody standing nearby would be knocked cold. In any case, there was something very funny about seeing this totally humorless man, Sam, who was already quite wealthy, trying to make millions with silly toys. But after a while, there was also something a little sad about it, because there really was only one hula hoop fad, and Sam was clearly not going to recreate it. One day, a coworker of Sam's finally decided to have a talk with him. This coworker was quite a bit younger, so he approached Sam very deferentially, saying, "Sam, I'm a little confused. You're interested in making a lot of money on a new toy, but you're actually losing a lot of money trying to develop them or importing them from South America. Can you tell me a little bit about what you think is going on here?" Well, Sam just looked at him and sighed. He said, "This business we're in is a pretty grim way of making money. I've got to have something going on the side. I've got to have something to keep my mind off making sausages and hamburger." To which the coworker replied, "Sam, I can certainly understand that, and I sympathize with how you feel, but you just don't seem to have a real knack for the toy business. Why don't you get involved with something that you're good at, something that would let you use your natural abilities?" He was silent for a moment, thinking it over. When he concentrated like that, his chin sank down against his chest, and he looked like an old hound dog. He really seemed to have the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. He looked like he had just lost his best friend in the world. Finally, he looked up and said, "Well, I've always had an excellent sense of humor. Maybe I could do something with that." Since that conversation, Sam has been trying his hand at writing scripts for television comedies. Wouldn't it be interesting and disturbing if one of them were set in a slaughterhouse? You see, a man or woman will admit to anything before they admit to being a sourpuss. It just doesn't happen. But it's not like they secretly know they're humorless and are trying to keep it to themselves. It's not like they secretly know they have this great weakness, which is not having a sense of humor. That's not the way it is at all. No, every gloomy Gus really thinks he's a very funny guy. Sam the meatpacker was a perfect example of that. Like everybody else, he thought he had a very good sense of humor, and he even thought he might be able to cash cash in on it somehow. That's one of the reasons that humor is such a mysterious and elusive quality.
Thank you for watching our video. Check out our other motivational videos that will help you turn your life in positive direction.